Hello, brains. Let's talk about failure. Growing up, a lot of those of us with ADHD heard a lot about how much potential we have and how we're failing to meet it. And when we failed to reach our potential, when we failed to do the thing we thought we were supposed to be able to do, we would try harder. And when that didn't work, we felt like we ourselves were failures. And a lot of the time it was blaming ourselves or blaming our efforts. And I just want to put a bit of a different perspective on it. What I used to do when I felt like I was failing was try harder, do more. Now I take a bit of a different approach because now I understand that failure is kind of a systemic thing. It's rarely just about lack of effort. It's really not because I'm a bad person or I'm not trying hard enough for the most part. It's usually a systemic issue. Sometimes I'm running into these invisible barriers because I do have ADHD and I do live in a world that's not exactly built for people with ADHD. You can see my video on ADHD friendly here. Sometimes I need a little extra support. I need accommodations. I need body doubling. I need whatever to help me be successful at the thing. But sometimes no matter how much support I get or I give myself, I'm still finding myself failing at something. So I agreed to write a book, and I was really lucky in that I didn't have to write a book proposal. I was able to sell it directly to a publisher and skip the part where I have to figure out exactly what the layout's gonna look like and write a chapter, and I got to skip a lot of the work that normally would be done before somebody starts writing a book. But I was still given the same amount of time to write a book, which was a year. Knowing I only had a year to write this book, I was like, okay, so what I'll do is give myself 2 weeks to write the first chapter because I figured that'll take a little longer. And then after that, every time I went to write a chapter, I gave myself a week. And I planned out my whole year like this, right? And it was a pretty reasonable schedule. I thought cool, I did it. I figured out how to get this into a year. And as long as I can stick to this schedule, as long as I can stay on track, then I'll have a book written in a year. Well, I went to start writing this book, but I got into it and I realized, I need to figure out actually what the book is going to look like and what's the structure going to be, and figure out a lot of logistical things. And then by the time I got started writing chapter 1, I realized I couldn't actually finish that in the 2 weeks. So I gave myself an extra week to write that first chapter. It's a little failure. It's fine. We'll get back on track. I wrote that first chapter and then I got notes on it and I realized I didn't like my first chapter. I wanted to rewrite it. So I thought about it more and I rewrote it, and then I rewrote it again. And at this point, I'm about 6 weeks in, and I was only supposed to take 2 weeks to write the first chapter. So I'm immediately starting this process off feeling like an absolute failure. And just time after time, every time I went to write this book, to do a portion of my book, I was failing to hit the deadlines I'd set for myself. And I felt scared because I was like, I'm really failing at this. I've got to try harder. Let me give up my nights and weekends. Let me work harder or faster or whatever. I didn't know, but I felt like I need to be putting more effort into this because I'm failing. Then I did the math. One morning when I was supposed to sit down and write, I was so discouraged and just absolutely in tears that I looked at the breakdown of now that I understood what the structure of the chapters and everything were going to be, I looked at how that was going to actually realistically fit in my schedule. And I know that I'm the kind of person who overwrites. And so if I need a 4,000 word chapter at the end of the week, I need to write 12,000 words, brain dump 12,000 words. And then I looked it up. I decided to look it up. How many words does a professional author write in a day? And the answer is not 12,000. It was anywhere from 2,500 to 3,500 max per day. And I was expecting myself to brain dump out 12,000 words in one day. And I'm just that might be the problem. My markers for success were not realistic. I was failing not because I wasn't trying hard enough. And so effort was not the issue. The actual issue is that what I was asking of myself was unrealistic. The markers of success I had set for myself were so unattainable that it was not going to happen. And so I decided to change my markers for success. And this was scary. This was a problem because if I gave myself this realistic schedule, I wouldn't even have the first draft finished. I would start the first draft that week, but I would have to finish the first draft the next week and then do the second draft the next week. So really, realistically, I needed 2 weeks to write a chapter. And that wasn't going to be easy, but at least it was doable. Looking back through my life, pretty much every time I felt like an absolute utter failure, it was because what I expected from myself was unrealistic. Either because it was something that no human was truly capable of doing, or because it was something that I saw my neurotypical friends or my neurotypical mom doing that was not something that I could do. One thing that helps me be successful with my goals is CoPilot. CoPilot is a one-on-one coaching service where you connect with a personal trainer who designs workouts that work for you based on your current fitness level, whatever equipment you have available, and however long you want to work out. You meet via video calls to talk about your goals and individual needs. Then your coach tracks your workouts and keeps you accountable with regular check-ins. I love my coach so much. Her name is Darian. She's incredibly encouraging, checks in if I miss a day, and reminds me to do a video call once in a while so we can talk about my goals and progress on a deeper level. The last call we had, she helped me figure out that I was ready to change things up a bit. I realized I'd actually been so consistent, I was starting to get bored, which is kind of cool because it means I'm feeling confident in movements that used to be hard for me. But my brain doesn't like to keep doing things it finds boring. So she put together a whole new program for me where each workout I can focus on something different: balance, power and agility, handstands. She also added in things like walking my dog on Saturdays, which my watch can track, or I can just check that I did. This is the longest I've ever stuck to any fitness program, and I think it's because it's so ADHD friendly. I don't have to leave my house to do the workouts. I don't even have to plan my workouts because Darian does that for me. And between talking with her and being able to share my workouts with friends in the app, I have the accountability and support I need to keep going. If you'd like to try it out, click my link to get 14 days free with your expert fitness and health coach. It is available on iOS now, but starting June 27th, it'll be available on Android as well. So I don't know, I just think it's really important for our community to recognize that sometimes when we're feeling like we're failing, sometimes it's because it's not a good fit. Sometimes it's because we don't have the support we need. Sometimes it's because it's not actually doable, no matter how much support, no matter how good the fit, like it's not doable. And so one of the best things we can do for ourselves is adjust the markers of success. And I did not want to do this, right? Because I'm like, well, but I was going to be so proud of myself, like being done early. Like I wanted to be done by Christmas. The book's not due till January 31st. Like I really wanted to. Well, that's nice, but me refusing to acknowledge that this actually takes me longer than I've given myself, all that would do is make me feel like I was continuing to fail throughout the entire writing process. And guess what? I still would have turned that book in late. By acknowledging early that what I had planned to do was not gonna be doable for me, I was able to adjust it. And the last time I sat down to write, I actually enjoyed it because I got to feel successful. I got to hit that deadline. And that gave me the encouragement and the motivation that I needed to be willing to show up again the next day. For those of us who do have issues with emotional regulation, I think making sure that we're not setting ourselves up for failure is really important, or setting ourselves up for disappointment or discouragement by setting goals for ourselves that aren't within our control, are too challenging, are really better suited to other people. I mean, we put so much emphasis on what we're doing to reach our goals that we don't put as much thought into what are those goals though? Like, do those goals make sense for us? Are they achievable for us? Are they too easy? Which incidentally can make things harder to do for those with ADHD because like, oh, well, I'm bored. Or are they too challenging? In which case we get discouraged. We want to aim for moderately challenging. We want to be in education, they call it the proximal zone of development. We want to be at that point where it's exciting and engaging and hard, but not so hard that we can't do it, not so hard that we give up. So a good way to figure out if your goals are too hard is how often are you succeeding at them? If every week you're missing your deadlines, there's something wrong there. Either it's not a good fit, you're not getting the support you need, or the goals, your markers for success, are unrealistic. And it's important to remember that even if somebody else is hitting those goals, that doesn't mean that you can, because they might be working with a different operating system. You know, their brain works differently. They're in a different field. I think that sweet spot is like, oh, we've got time. Like I don't need to, like, then it's probably not challenging enough. And if we're like constantly failing, constantly discouraged, constantly not hitting those goals, then they're too ambitious. Those goals are too ambitious or outside our control, right? Like it might be a perfectly reasonable goal, but like their goals about somebody else's behavior, or like, you know, it's something, if something is too far outside your control, that can be really a really good way to set yourself up for failure too. I got really frustrated once because I had a friend who was neurotypical and I was dating this guy at the time, and I was like, I keep failing at everything that I'm doing. And he was like, well, yeah, everybody fails at stuff. And he was like, I was like, well, no, not my friend. Like this neurotypical friend. I was like, my neurotypical friend never fails at anything. Like everything he sets out to do, he does. And my boyfriend looks at me and says, how many things is he trying to do? And I realized not nearly as many as I was trying to do. So that's another thing to recognize too. Sometimes when we're failing at things, it's because we're trying to do too many things at the same time. It's almost like a bunch of people trying to fit through a doorway all at the same time. It's not going to go well, right? Like one at a time, one project at a time, one task at a time, monotasking. And often we try to do it as a way of catching up, as a way of making up for falling behind. But if we try and do everything at the same time, or we constantly switch our goals, we're not going to really make a whole lot of progress compared to if we just pick 1 or 2 or 3 and focus on those. So yeah, moral of the story, if you feel like you're failing, there are a lot of reasons for that don't involve, I'm a horrible human and like I suck at everything and like who let me do this? I'm terrible. There are a lot of reasons for that failure and they're systemic. It's what is the goal that you're setting? What kind of support do you have? How many things are you trying to do at the same time? How interested in it are you? Like really, if we're interest-based learners, we're interest-based doers. If it's something that really, really, really bores you, all the effort in the world is probably not going to help you toward that goal because it's just not how our brains work. And so finding ways to get ourselves interested in it or switching to something that is a better fit is a better option than continuing to essentially try to nail Jell-O to the wall, which is essentially what we're doing when we're trying to do something that like does not interest us at all. Remember, like a lot of times people will make us feel like we're failing when we're actually doing pretty well because their markers for success might be different than ours. That's my 2 cents. I will get off my soapbox now. Thank you to my brain advocates and all my Patreon brains for giving me a soapbox. I hope this was helpful. I needed to hear it come out of my mouth. I needed to be reminded of it. Again, if you want to try out CoPilot, I put the link in the description below. Like, subscribe, click all the things, and I will see you next video. Bye, brains.